I was 3 days from my 25th anniversary at Fortress Industrial Solutions when Nadine Cruz called me into the conference room and tried to turn me into a file clerk. My name's Gary Hollins, 54 years old. I started at Fortress as a floor technician when I was 29, back when the place still smelled like cutting oil, and the founder, Walter Hargrove, knew every employee by name. I worked every department they had, learned the equipment, the clients, the processes, not from a manual, but from actually doing the work for 2.5 decades. By the time Nadine called that meeting, I was operations director, and Fortress's biggest account, Titan Manufacturing, had my cell number memorized. That's what made what happened next so interesting. I walked into that glass conference room and Nadine was already seated, a printed document in front of her, face arranged into something she probably practiced in the mirror. Professional concern. Next to her was Brent Foley, 38 years old, CEO for 18 months, came from a software company that got bought out before he could do any real damage there. He'd been talking about streamlining legacy processes since his first week. I knew what that meant. It meant me. Gary, we want to talk about role clarity, Nadine said. She slid the paper across the table. My job title was highlighted in yellow. Below it, a list of responsibilities that had nothing to do with what I actually did. Inventory oversight, vendor reporting, process documentation, internal workflow analysis. Not one word about the calls I took at 2 a.m. when Titan's Line 3 went sideways. Nothing about Dale Pruitt, Titan's operations director, who'd been calling me directly for 13 years because he knew that when a line goes down mid-shift with $2 million in parts backed up, you don't have time for customer service queues. We need you operating within these parameters going forward, Brent said. He had the practiced calm of someone who'd delivered this speech before. It protects everyone, creates clearer accountability. I looked at the paper. I looked at Nadine, who was studying the table. I looked at Brent, who was studying me. Understood, I said. I'll follow it exactly. Walking back to my desk, I ran the numbers in my head. Mortgage had 6 years left. Cheryl was halfway through her MBA program. Diane had cut back to part-time 2 years ago when her hours at the firm got restructured. They were counting on my salary, and they knew it. That's why Brent looked so comfortable in that chair. But here's what Brent didn't understand about 25 years of institutional knowledge. It doesn't just disappear when you write a new job description. It goes somewhere. And I had some choices about where. That afternoon, Dale sent his usual message. Line 3, calibration issue. Could I walk his team through the pressure sequence on the hydraulic feed system? For 13 years, I'd have had him on the phone in under a minute. I knew that system the way a mechanic knows an engine he's rebuilt 4 times, not from a schematic but from feel. I knew which sensor read 3% low because of a wiring splice that had been there since 2019. I knew the exact sequence to reset the timing relay without triggering a full shutdown. Dale's guys didn't know any of that. Neither did anyone else at Fortress. I opened the job description Nadine had given me, read it once more, and typed back to Dale. Please direct technical support requests to our customer solutions team. My current role is limited to process documentation and vendor reporting. They'll get you squared away. I hit send and waited. The silence lasted 22 minutes. Then my phone started moving. First call was Gloria Taft, VP of Sales. Gary, I just got a message from Dale Pruitt. What's going on? I'm operating within the scope HR provided. If you'd like me to take on technical support responsibilities, I'd need that reflected in writing. Come on, Gary. We're all on the same team. Happy to be a team player. Update my job description and I'll help. She hung up. Brent called 4 minutes later. The confidence from the conference room was already thinning out. Gary, Titan is our biggest account. We need some flexibility here. I understand that. Add live technical support to my written scope and I'll be flexible. We don't need to change any paperwork. Just use common sense. My common sense says to follow the written parameters you gave me this morning. He hung up too. By 5 p.m. I had 11 missed calls. Every one of them was some version of the same message. Fix this. None of them were willing to say in writing what they'd been perfectly comfortable saying for years without documentation, that my real job, the job Fortress actually needed done, was nothing like what appeared on that highlighted piece of paper. What none of them knew was that I'd spent the afternoon being very, very productive. I was writing process documentation, exactly what my job description called for. Detailed, thorough, technically precise documentation of every calibration sequence, every troubleshooting protocol, every vendor escalation path for Titan's equipment. Beautiful documents, completely useless to anyone who'd never stood on that production floor and listened to those machines. I also made one phone call that wasn't in any job description. I called Dale's cell, not the Titan main line. Dale, don't want to get into details, but things are shifting over here. If something comes up and normal channels aren't working, call me directly, not Fortress. Me. He was quiet for a second. You all right, Gary? Covering bases. That's all. Understood. That evening, I sat at the kitchen table with Diane and laid it all out. Bills on one side, my notes on the other. Mortgage payment $1,847, Cheryl's grad school expenses we were helping cover $600 a month. My 401 key contribution I couldn't afford to touch. Diane listened without interrupting, which is one of the things about her I've never taken for granted. You think they're moving toward letting you go? She asked. They're building a case. Or they think they are. What's your case look like? I tapped the folder next to my coffee cup. Every email, every call log, the original job description from when I was promoted versus the new one Nadine handed me. The gap between those two documents was where 25 years of real work lived. If they fire me, they pay severance. And I've got documentation that shows exactly what I was actually doing versus what they claim my role was. Diane was quiet for a minute then. And if they don't fire you, then I keep following the job description they gave me. Exactly. She looked at me the way she has since we were both in our 20s. Like she already knows what I've decided, and she's just waiting for me to finish saying it out loud. We'll be fine either way, Gary. We always figure it out. 28 years. She still meant it every time. The pressure at Fortress escalated fast after that. By Wednesday, I'd been quietly removed from 2 production planning meetings I'd been running for 6 years. My access to Titan's system monitoring dashboard got suspended. Routine security review, according to the IT ticket. Brent had apparently decided that if I wasn't going to play along, he'd accelerate whatever timeline he'd already had in mind. What he didn't account for was that none of those moves changed anything about what I knew. You can revoke a login. You can't revoke 13 years of understanding how a piece of equipment thinks. Thursday morning, Brent came to my desk directly. No conference room this time. No Nadine as a buffer. He stood at the edge of my cubicle like he wasn't sure whether to sit down. Gary, I'm going to be straight with you. I'd appreciate that. We're going through a structural transition. Some roles are going to look different on the other side of it. I think there's still a place for you here, but it requires some flexibility. I saved the document I was working on, process documentation, exactly per my job description, and looked up at him. Brent, I'm being completely flexible. I'm doing precisely what you and Nadine outlined on Monday. If you want a different outcome, the lever is right there. I pointed at the printed job description pinned to my cubicle wall. Update that document. His jaw moved slightly. I don't think you understand the position you're putting yourself in. I think I understand it pretty clearly. He left without another word. That afternoon, I got a call I wasn't expecting. Not from Dale, not from Gloria Taft, from a 407 area code, Central Florida. Gary. The voice was 68 years old and still had the same directness it always had. Walter Hargrove, the man who had started Fortress in a 4,000 square foot building with 12 employees and turned it into what it was before selling to the investment group that eventually installed Brent Foley as its face. Walter, good to hear your voice. Skip the pleasantries. I've been talking to Dale Pruitt, and somebody forwarded me an email chain I found very interesting. A pause. Tell me what's happening over there. I told him. All of it. The meeting, the job description, the access revocation, Brent at my desk that morning. Walter listened without interrupting, a habit I'd always respected in him. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then I sold to the wrong people. I've known it for about 14 months. I'm sorry, Gary. You couldn't have predicted. I could have done better due diligence. That's on me. Another pause. I want you to know something. Whatever you decide to do next, whatever direction that takes, you have my support. And my phone book's still pretty full. That call lasted 11 minutes. When I hung up, I sat in my truck in the parking garage for a while before driving home. The founder of the company had just told me I was right, and he just handed me something that no severance package could replicate: credibility in an industry where relationships are everything, and an open door to 40 years of his contacts. Titan's Line 3 went down hard the following Thursday. Not a calibration hiccup, a full production shutdown. Dale's team had been working around the underlying issue for 3 days, the kind of workaround that feels like a solution until the whole thing collapses at once. By the time Line 3 went dark, Line 1 had developed what Dale's engineers were calling a phantom fault. Intermittent shutdowns every 80 to 90 minutes with no consistent error code. I knew exactly what it was. A timing relay that had been degrading for months, throwing off synchronization between the two lines. I'd noticed the early signs back in August during a routine visit and flagged it in my notes. Not in any official report. That kind of observation lived in the informal layer of my job, the part that didn't appear on Nadine's highlighted document. Titan had $2.8 million in automotive parts staged for Friday delivery. Ford and GM had hard shipping windows. It was Tuesday morning. Dale called my cell at 6:47 a.m. "Gary, I'm not calling Fortress. I'm calling you. How bad?" "Both lines down. My engineers have been at it since 3 a.m. and they're chasing ghosts. Your customer solutions team has bounced me between 4 different people and nobody's been on our floor." I knew what I had to do. And I knew that the next thing I said was going to change the structure of my professional life permanently. I'd been thinking about it since Monday. Diane and I had talked it through twice. "Dale, I can't help you as a Fortress employee. That's not in my current scope." Silence. "But I'm going to put in for personal leave today. As of tomorrow morning, I'm available as an independent contractor." "You'd need a direct agreement, not through Fortress." "What would that look like?" "Emergency stabilization. I come in, find the root cause, fix both lines, document the permanent solution. Clean scope, clear timeline. Name the number. I thought about the mortgage, about Cheryl's tuition, about 9 more years of watching Brent Foley make decisions about things he'd never once touched with his hands. $38,000 for the immediate fix. I need 3 weeks and I'll document permanent solutions for both lines, another $12,000. Have your legal team check your Fortress service agreement. Emergency consulting is a separate category. It's not covered by their contract. 20 minutes later, Dale called back. Legal confirmed. Send me a contract template tonight. You'll have it by 9 p.m. I called Diane on the way home. She picked up on the second ring. "Well," she said, "I'm putting in for leave tomorrow." A beat of silence. "Then I'll make dinner." I submitted my personal leave request at 8:03 a.m. the next morning. 40 minutes later, Brent called. "Gary, we're seeing that you've put in for leave. Given the current situation with Titan, the timing is it's personal leave. I have 19 days accrued. HR policy allows me to use them with 24 hours notice for personal reasons. I understand the policy. I'm asking you to reconsider the timing." "I appreciate that. The leave stands." He pivoted. "We're also hearing from Titan that they may be engaging an outside contractor for emergency support. I want to be clear that Fortress has an exclusive service relationship with Titan. Any outside consulting that conflicts with that agreement would create legal exposure. I'd been waiting for this. Check Section 4 of the Fortress-Titan Service Agreement. Brent, Fortress covers equipment supply, scheduled maintenance, and standard technical support. Emergency production consulting falls outside that scope. Dale's legal team reviewed it yesterday." Silence. "I'd encourage you to have your own legal team look at it before making any claims." I kept my voice even. "Have a good morning." I drove to Titan's facility and met Dale at the main entrance. He looked like a man who hadn't slept since Sunday. We shook hands and walked the floor without much small talk. That was always how it worked with Dale. He didn't need a warm-up, and neither did I. The production floor was quieter than it should have been at 9 a.m. A few technicians standing near line 1 looking at tablets, running diagnostics that weren't going to find what I already knew was there. Line 3 was completely dark. "Walk me through what your team has checked," I said. Dale handed me a printout. They'd gone through the obvious list: sensors, pressure regulators, the feed calibration on the hydraulic system, all clean, which meant they were looking at symptoms instead of causes. I walked line 3 first. Stood at the main control panel and just listened. That sounds like something you'd say for effect, but it's actually how it works after enough years. Machines have rhythms, and when something's wrong, the rhythm is off even when everything's technically within tolerance. There was a slight irregularity in the cycling interval on the secondary drive. Not much, maybe 40 milliseconds off. Most people wouldn't catch it. I caught it in about 8 minutes. "Your timing relay on the secondary synchronization circuit has been degrading," I told Dale. "It's been running slightly off for months. On its own, line 3 could compensate. But once line 1 started pulling from the same synchronization signal during high-demand cycles, the variance started compounding. That's your phantom fault. Dale stared at me. How long would it have taken my engineers to find that? Hard to say. The error codes point everywhere except there. How did you know where to look? I flagged an early sign of it in my notes back in August. Never made it into a formal report. I didn't elaborate on why. We both understood. We replaced the relay that afternoon. Secondary parts were in Titan's on-site inventory. I'd recommended they stock that specific component 2 years earlier, after seeing the same failure mode at another facility. By 4 p.m., Line 3 was running clean. By end of day Thursday, the phantom fault on Line 1 had cleared completely. Dale stood next to me watching both lines run and didn't say anything for almost a minute. Friday delivery is back on schedule, he said finally. Ford and GM will get their parts. He nodded slowly. What would have happened if you'd still been sitting in that office writing vendor reports? I didn't answer that. We both knew. Brent called Thursday morning while I was finishing up documentation at Titan. Marcus, we understand you've been on site at Titan as an outside contractor. He'd stopped using my first name correctly, a tell I'd noticed before in managers who were losing ground. That puts us in a complicated position. I think you mean Gary. A beat. Gary, right? This puts us in a complicated position. I'm on personal leave, Brent. What I do on personal leave is my business, provided it doesn't violate a valid non-compete or conflict with a Fortress contract. Your legal team has now had 48 hours to review the Titan agreement. I'm guessing they confirmed what Dale's team found. Longer silence this time. We'd like to discuss bringing you back. I'm not coming back as an employee. Then what are you proposing? I'm not proposing anything. If Fortress wants to discuss a consulting arrangement, put something in writing and send it to me. I'll review it. He sent a draft the next morning. It was low $80,000 annual retainer, vague scope, a non-disparagement clause that was 3 paragraphs long. I forwarded it to Walter Hargrove with one line. Thought you'd want to see this. Walter called Dale that afternoon. I wasn't on the call, but Dale told me about it afterward, almost word for word. Walter had said, Dale, I want to ask you something directly. If Fortress doesn't find a way to make Gary Hollins available for technical support on your account, what does that mean for your relationship with them? Dale had said, honestly, Walter, Gary's the reason we stayed through 3 ownership changes and 2 sales team turnovers. We'd have to take a serious look at our options. Walter had said, I'd appreciate it if you shared that with Brent Foley. Dale had, the revised offer came in 4 days later. $110,000 for completing the immediate stabilization and documentation work. $140,000 annual retainer for ongoing consulting, emergency response capability, quarterly reviews, critical process documentation, and a clause I'd asked Walter to suggest quietly right of first refusal on 8% equity if Fortress went to sale within 5 years. Brent had pushed back on the equity piece for 2 days. Then Dale's procurement team sent Fortress a formal notice that they were evaluating alternative suppliers for upcoming expansion phases. Brent signed the equity clause the same afternoon. Total first-year value, $250,000, more than I'd made in any year as a Fortress employee. I sat in the truck in Titan's parking lot and called Diane. It's done, I said. All of it. All of it. $250,000 year 1. And I own a piece of the company if they sell. She was quiet long enough that I checked to make sure the call hadn't dropped. Deanne, I'm here. Her voice was steady. Come home. I'm making that pasta you like. I sat there another minute after hanging up, looking at the Titan facility through the windshield. 300 people working in there, lines running on schedule, Ford and GM getting their parts on time. That was always what it came down to. Not the corporate politics, not the job descriptions, not Brent Foley's quarterly metrics. Just the work done right by someone who knew how. I started the truck and headed home. 3 weeks after signing the Fortress retainer, Diane and I sat across from Ruth Kane, our financial advisor in her office downtown. Ruth laid the numbers out on the table the way she always does. No sugarcoating, no drama, just the math. With the consulting income layered on top of your existing 401k contributions, you're looking at retirement at 60 instead of 63, she said. Possibly 58 if the Titan retainer renews at the same rate. Diane reached over and put her hand on my arm. Ruth slid another page across. The other thing worth discussing is Cheryl's remaining tuition. You could cover the balance without touching retirement savings. We'd told Cheryl for 2 years that she'd need to carry the last stretch of her MBA herself. We'd meant it at the time. The numbers just hadn't allowed anything different that night. I called Cheryl at her apartment. Dad, everything okay? Better than okay. Your mom and I want to talk about your tuition situation. I've already got a plan. I'll figure out the financing. You might not have to. Things changed a little bit. Silence then. How much did things change? Enough that finishing your MBA isn't something you need to stress about anymore. She went quiet for long enough that I thought she might be crying. She wasn't. Cheryl doesn't do that easily, which she gets from Diane. Dad, are you serious? I'm serious. What happened? Long story. The short version is that I stopped doing 2 jobs for the price of 1. She laughed. The real kind. The kind she's had since she was 9 years old. It's about time. When I hung up, Diane was standing in the kitchen doorway. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Scott Varner called me the following week. We'd worked alongside each other at Fortress for years, 23 years in automation systems. The kind of knowledge that takes decades to build and about 90 days to lose when a company decides to restructure the department around it. Brent had done exactly that, 2 months after my situation resolved. I heard what happened with you, Scott said. Are you doing what I think you're doing, starting a consulting practice? Looking for a partner who knows automation the way you do. Carol's been telling me to do something like this for 3 years. Scott was 51, same generation as me, same experience of watching companies gradually decide that what you knew wasn't worth what it cost to keep you. What does the structure look like? We talked for 2 hours that first call. By the end of it, Holland's Varner Technical Group existed on paper. Within 60 days, it had 3 clients. Scott brought 2 more by the end of month 4. We weren't trying to build something with 100 employees and a glass office tower. We were trying to do good work for companies that actually understood what they were buying. The work was steady. The clients were straightforward. Nobody handed us a highlighted job description and told us to stay in our lane. About a year after I'd left Fortress, Brent Foley called and asked if I'd meet him for coffee. I almost said no. Then I thought about it and decided there wasn't any reason to. He looked older. The confident posture from that conference room was still there, but it was working harder than it used to. Word around the industry was that Fortress had lost 2 more major accounts after badly managed implementations, both clients who'd specifically asked for the kind of direct technical relationship I used to provide. We can't fill the gap, Brent said. He wrapped both hands around his coffee cup. We've posted the position 3 times. Young engineers know the theory, but they fall apart when a line actually goes down. The experienced guys we talk to want more than we can offer. More than you can offer, I said. That's an interesting way to phrase it, given what you're paying me now. He had the grace to look uncomfortable. I know how that sounds. What do you actually want from this conversation, Brent? He looked up. I want to understand what I did wrong. That surprised me. Not because I didn't believe him, but because it takes something specific in a person to say that out loud, especially to the guy who made the mistake costly. I gave him an honest answer. You don't fix an expertise gap by restructuring a job description. You fix it by valuing the knowledge before the crisis, not after. You fix it by understanding that the informal layer of someone's work, the 3 a.m. calls, the relationships, the pattern recognition that doesn't fit into any process document, is often the most expensive thing to lose and the hardest to replace. He listened, took notes on his phone. When the check came, he reached for it. I've got it, I said. But for future reference, my standard rate is $300 an hour. We've been talking for about 45 minutes. He looked at me. Then he laughed, genuine, no performance in it. He pulled out a business card and slid it across the table. Send me an invoice. I did. 6 months after that, a note arrived from Walter Hargrove. 3 sentences, handwritten. Gary heard you're speaking at the Midwest Manufacturing Summit. Save me a seat in the front row. Proud of you. I showed it to Diane that evening. She read it twice, handed it back. You gonna frame it? Thought crossed my mind. Frame it. It's on the wall in my office now, next to the first signed contract from Holland's Varner's first client. I look at both of them sometimes when I'm on the phone with a new client. We're finishing up documentation at 7 p.m. because the work is worth finishing right. Here's what I want to say directly to you. If any part of this story sounds familiar, you've probably spent decades building something that doesn't show up cleanly on any org chart. Knowledge that lives in your hands and your instincts and your relationships. And at some point, somebody younger with a better title decided that what you do could be captured in a bullet-pointed job description and handed off to someone cheaper. They were wrong, and deep down, you already know that. The question isn't whether your experience has value. It does. The question is whether you're going to let someone else keep setting the price, or whether you're going to find out what the market will actually pay when they need you and have nowhere else to turn. You're not overhead, you're the reason the lines keep running. Act like it.